Sky is clear blue, white clouds gently move, birds with white feathers are comfortably flying in the sky. Suddenly, from the main gate of Duong Palace, a shrill voice suddenly rang out, canceling the marriage? That voice carried skepticism and anger, destroying the peaceful atmosphere from before, causing the flying birds to fall in surprise. Inside the luxurious hall of the Duong Palace, on each side are 3 large pillars plated with gold. One pillar must be as big as the arms of 2 adults. Back in the middle of the hall, a red carpet stretches out, coming to the main position, looking extremely majestic and luxurious. Not inferior to the royal palace, the man standing in the main position was extremely angry, speaking loudly to the people sitting on both sides. "O Duong chief. I Naplan, you." The people sitting on both sides remained silent, and did not speak. No one said anything. The man continued to angrily shout, "I will not agree. This man's name is Tumyu. He is still very young, has big eyes, sharp eyebrows, hair tied in a ponytail, looks very heroic, black clothes make the wearer even more imposing." It seemed like this was the real male lead, but no. The real male protagonist in this story is Lam Bak, except for the man with long white hair who has been calmly sipping a cup of tea up until now. The beauty value of the person is also very high. The skin is white, the eyebrows are delicate, and under both eyes there is a tear mole that looks even more elegant and peachy. If that young man had a strong and powerful beauty, this person had a gentle appearance like jade. He wore mainly gray clothes to highlight his beauty. He put the teacup on the table, closed his eyes and questioned, "Disagreeing? Tumyu, do you think we came here to negotiate with you?" Contrary to his appearance, the words he spoke were extremely sharp and cold. He continued to tease Tumyu, "Don't you look at what the hell you look like now? 3 years later, you're still in the 3rd level of chi refining, not making any progress at all, the realm of a dog that Lin Taifong is. I raised you higher than you, saying that you are a waste, and I still value you." Tumyu heard this, gritted his teeth in anger, lowered his head, clenched his hands into fists, but did not have a word to refute. He looked at Nalan Tuvan and continued, "And my junior sister has the qualities of a great emperor. In the future she will definitely fly high above the 9 heavens." Naplan Tuvan sat on one side, her big round eyes and curled eyelashes, her delicate eyebrows were slightly furrowed, perhaps because she was shy. Her cheeks were also pink, her lips pursed tightly, saying nothing, as if also agree with Lam Bak's thoughts. Lam Bak raised his pinky finger and continued with an extremely disdainful expression, "A waste like you, do you think you are worthy of it? Tell me, what do you have that is worthy of my little junior sister?" After he finished saying this, a purple system panel appeared in front of him, with the words, "The host successfully completed the villainous act, achieving 1000 villain value points." Of course it was the panel. This system symbol can only be seen by Lam Bak alone. After reading the words on it, he thought to himself, "Aha, there are so many villains this time. Indeed, only trampling on the Son of Destiny is the right path." After thinking about his next move, after the system automatically disappeared, Lam Bak stood up. He slowly walked towards Tumyu step by step, introducing himself in his mind. "I, Lam Bak, 20 years old, a 3-year-old young man from the 21st century, determined to be a good person. Unfortunately, without waiting for me to realize my ambition, I was confused and transported to a world called 9 continents." Lam Bak recalls his identity since time travel. Becoming the senior brother of Tan Van Tong Lin Fong, suddenly there were countless beautiful women around him, all of whom were his junior sisters. He thought that such a life would be very happy, but beyond Lam Bak's expectations, the person he traveled to had a villain. After learning this, he thought it was like thunder in a clear sky. He held his head in pain and screamed in his heart, "What a pity this guy turned out to be a complete villain." This identity of Lam Bak has done countless bad things in the past. When he was young, Lam Bak lifted his sister's skirt. Lam Bak grew up stealing his sister's socks. Bullying fellow junior sisters makes people scream, "Master, there's a monster." He was so frightened that he widened his eyes and sweated as he thought. According to his experience of having read more than 1,000 web novels, this guy is a cannon fodder who can survive no more than 3 volumes. I also made up my mind, no way. We have to adjust our settings and become a good person. Live on. But right at the moment he made that decision, the system notification sound rang out. "Congratulations, the host has activated the villain system. The system is connecting." It's a pity that the Golden Finger came uninvited and is also a system villain. So before he could realize his beautiful life, he failed right from the start. He had a headache and covered his face, crying without tears. Was this really trying to kill himself? He continued to organize everything in his mind. Through the system, I knew that I would only become a rock for the children of destiny to step on, the children of destiny, the villain's cannon fodder. Still 1, the fate of the child of destiny, negative luck value 10,000. But as long as we complete the system's villain mission, we will be able to change the outcome, no mistake. It's all just to keep living. At the end of the flashback, at this time Lam Bak walked in front of Tumyu, curled his mouth and coldly snorted. Tumyu raised his head to look at Lam Bak. Lam Bak took out a very precious-looking box. Inside contained a round yellow pill radiating 7-color radiance. Lam Bak opened the box, held it towards Tumyu and said, "Don't say I'm bullying you. I have an elixir that can help monks condense essence. It's like taking the blame for my little sister's divorce." He showed a disdainful expression and smirked, sarcastically saying, "Of course, with your waste of character, I'm afraid you won't be able to use it in this lifetime, but the Tiu family can still use it." The two white-haired and bearded elders sitting, Elder O Duong and Chiu Chiem Kwa, were also surprised by these words, causing a stir of discussion. With the formation of the hero pill, my Tu family will have a powerful original hero guarding it. Suddenly, Tu Mu angrily clenched his fist and slammed it down on the table. Because of this action, the teacup that was resting on it also bounced up and splashed all the water out. Even Lam Bak was startled. Tu Mu shouted, "Enough! Even though I'm just a trash now, I was 16 years old and reached the foundation stage." Lam Bak put on an indifferent face, but in his heart he was startled. It turned out he was just talking loudly. He thought he was going to perform a breakthrough here, then showed off another trick. "Practice with me." Tu Mu continued to raise his voice, pointing at the crowd and questioning, "What kind of realm did you guys have when you were 16 years old?" Lam Bak turned around and walked back to his seat, speaking in a sarcastic, arrogant tone. "People who don't know would think that at 16 years old you are standing at the top of the world." He turned around and said to Nap Lan Tu Van, "Little junior sister, tell him how old you are." Nap Lan Tu Van was sitting silently watching. Suddenly his name was called, and obediently stood up to follow Lam Bak's words. Nap Lan Tu Van raised her hand to her chest and said boldly, "Before I was 13 years old, I was accepted by Fairy Bitch Van as a disciple, becoming the younger sister of senior brother Lam Bak. That year I was 5 years old, senior brother was 8 years old. 5 years later, senior brother reached the foundation stage. I was only 13 years old. With the help of senior brother, I reached the foundation stage at 15 years old." One can see the pride hidden in Nap Lan Tu Van's words. Tu Mu acted as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. His eyes widened and his mouth opened, stammering and saying, "Here, here." At this time, the system in Lam Bak's head rang again with a notification. The confidence of destiny Tu Mu has been attacked. His Dao heart is about to be broken. His luck has decreased by 500. Now Tu Mu's luck is 9,500. Another system notification is displayed. The host successfully overwhelmed the son of destiny who wanted to divorce, increased his luck by 100, and rewarded 10,000 villain value points. After reading this announcement, Lam Bak still pretended to be calm on the outside, but deep inside he was so happy that he was blooming, howling, flying. After so many years he finally took the first step. Lam Bak thought of an evil idea to speed up the speed of increasing luck points. His face was sinister. He chuckled in his heart. "Let's increase the fire." He moved closer to Nalan Tu Van, reached out his hand towards Nalan Tu Van and said, "Jumia, if I were you, I would have no longer had the face to live in this world. What about the engagement between you and my sister?" Saying that, Lam Bak grabbed Nalan Tu Van's hand with one hand and pulled her whole body close to him. The other hand supported her back, looked at her with deep affection and said sweet words, "My husband. Junior sister, must be a reincarnated hero like me." Nap Lan Tu Van was shy. His face was red and he replied softly, "Senior brother." Lam Bak changed from a gentle tone to a cold tone mixed with contempt, glanced at Tu Mia and continued what he said before, "But he is not a trash like you." When Tu Mia saw this whole scene, he frowned indignantly. His heart was already burning. His stomach was full of resentment. So that's it. That's it. This bastard Nalan Tu Van likes this bastard Lam Bak. That's why he wants to break up. These two untouchables. It's these two untouchables. Unforgivable. Unforgivable. Thinking like that, Tu Mia could no longer control himself. Fiercely and furiously rushed towards Lam Bak and Lan Tu Van, who were still standing side by side, releasing a blue stream of power from their hands. "Lam, scream directly, you male and female dogs, die for me." The elder named Chiu Chiem Kwa raised his hand in panic and said to stop Tu Miu stop. Miu ni, but without waiting for him to worry, before Tu Miu could get close, Na Lan Tu Van kicked him in the face. Tu Miu cried out in pain, a mouthful of blood spewed out from his mouth. The force of the kick was so strong that Tu Miu was kicked far away, fell to the ground with a bang, clutching his face and screaming in pain. Nap Lan Tu Van did not feel the least bit guilty towards her ex-fiancé, retracted her legs, frowned and asked in a cold voice, "How could you touch my senior brother?" Tu Miu did not answer Nap Lan Tu Van, rubbing the wound on his face, so angry that his face grimaced with every word, "Damn. Lam Bak. Do you only know how to hide behind women?" Lam Bak showed a provocative expression, said words to provoke Tu Miu. "I have little sister to protect me, can you cut me? If I had acted, you would have turned into a corpse long ago." Nap Lan Tu Van also sarcastically said, "If I used all my strength to kick you, you would have died a long time ago." Tu Miu was humiliated, became angry. His eyes were full of blood, his dark gray face let out a shrill scream, "You guys." Tu Miu struggled to stand up while still muttering, "Good, very good." Lam Bak and Nap Lan Tu Van still stood on the side watching Tu Miu's self-directed performance. After successfully standing up, Tu Miu waved his hand and pointed his index finger at Lam Bak and Nap Lan Tu Van, shouting in hatred, "Lam Bak, Nap Lan Tu Van, you listen carefully to me. 3 years. Exactly 3 years later. I will definitely go to Tan Van Tong to ask you two to pay back today's humiliation." Lam Bak crossed his arms, glanced at the ceiling and muttered, 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. The purpose was to provoke Tu Miu. Tu Miu was successfully provoked and once again shouted, "Don't bully." But before he could finish his sentence, a familiar sound rang out again. This time it was Lam Bak's black shoe, Tu Miu. Actually, I was kicked in the face again. It looked like it was very painful. Not long after Tu Miu stood up, she once again fell to the floor, her legs up in the air. making a loud noise that threatened to collapse to the floor. Lambak crossed his arms, stepped on the table, and disdainfully said, "Why are these children of destiny so stupid?" At this time, the system announced again. The host successfully prevented the scene of the marriage of the son of destiny. Reward 1000 villain value points. Tu Mu's luck minus 250. The donor's luck plus 50. Tu Chiem Kwa gritted his teeth angrily when he saw his junior being insulted like that and cried out, "You guys." He was about to rush forward but was stopped by Elder O Duong next to him. The white-clothed elder said, "Tu Chiem Kwa, don't forget you are the Tu family's patriarch. What will be the outcome of broken feelings for Tan Van Tong?" Tu Chiem Kwa said nothing more, thinking silently for a moment, then reluctantly closed his eyes and said to Elder O Duong, "I know." Suddenly, a sweet voice from Ko Noyet came. This Ko Noyet came for Tu Mu, brother Tu Mu. Female with silver hair, the upper half tied in a high bun with a silver hairpin, the lower half hanging down long. Even more graceful, she wore a jade green outfit, cut in the right places to show off her seductive body, and black stockings accentuated her long legs. Her lovely face like a flower is filled with anxiety. Ko Noyet came to Tu Mu, knelt next to her and stroked Tu Mu's chest, kindly asking, "Big brother Tu Mu, are you okay?" Tu Mu replied to her, "I'm fine." The system's notification sounded again, displaying, "Son of Heaven's Destiny." Ko Noyet appeared to help Tu Mu. The two people's luck was entangled. Tu Mu's luck added 200. Lambak immediately fell into silence. Daughter of Destiny? Sure enough, the destiny of this son of destiny, Tu Mu, was not so easily crushed. It seems that the connection between him and the daughter of destiny still needs to be severed. After thinking about it, Lambak turned around and showed a sinister smile, stroked his chin, and continued to say words of encouragement to Tu Mu. I thought that Tu Mu's bones still had a lot of spirit, but it turned out that he would just hide behind the woman's back. Tu Mu was angry, bloodshot eyes filled his eyes, his eyebrows furrowed as much as possible, but he could not refute, he could only vent by shouting, "You." Lambak continued to provoke him, playing tricks on him. "What are you? As soon as little junior sister broke up with you, you immediately found a replacement. With your natural talent and cultivation base, why aren't you shy? Oh right, I forgot you have no face or skin." Otherwise, one second he would refuse the kiss, and the next second he would jump into the woman's arms without refusing. Lambak said while smirking. Lambak pretended to be miserable, used a towel to wipe away his tears, and said sympathetically, "Unfortunately, a jasmine flower was planted in buffalo dung." This look of Lambak made Nalan Tu Van have to cover her mouth to hold back her laughter. Tu Mu angrily gritted his teeth. Ko Noyet eagerly grabbed his arm and gently advised, "Big brother Tu Mu, definitely don't fall for his cockroach plan." Immediately she stood up, changed her face, pointed at Lamban Nav of Nalan Tu Van and said loudly, "Lambak, don't think that when you are 13 years old and have reached maturity, you think you are a genius. I see, your talent is just average." As soon as she heard Ko Noyet's words, Tu Mu turned to stone and had no words to describe. Tu Mu was told a weak point, crying without tears and falling directly to the ground. Ko Noyet realized that she had said something wrong and sobbed in panic, explaining, "Brother Tu Mu, I didn't mean that. The system has a new notification. Tu Mu's son of destiny's self-esteem has suffered a serious blow. His luck has been reduced by 100, now Tu Mu's luck is 9,350. Lambak and Nalan Tu Van are standing on one side. Watching, I was speechless because of the actions of the two people in front of me. Lambak was stunned because he had not yet had time to do anything but had already succeeded. In his heart, he exclaimed, "Oh shit. Nice help. If the system hadn't told me Ko Noyet was the daughter of destiny, I would have thought she was my teammate." Lambak clasped his hands and said to Ko Noyet, "Miss Ko Noyet is right, you are indeed of average talent, I hope to have your guidance." Ko Noyet was angry but couldn't do anything, just stammered, "You." Tu Mu climbed up, his face already black as the bottom of the pot, gritting his teeth full of hatred. Ko Noyet on the side patted his shoulder and asked Tu Mu, "Caca, are you okay?" He was so embarrassed that he became angry and pushed Ko Noyet away, yelling at her to get away. Because the force was so strong, Ko Noyet fell backwards and cried out loudly. Lambak took the opportunity to hold the beauty and gently asked, "Is it okay, Miss Ko Noyet?" Ko Noyet was surprised when Lambak supported her. Because of the skin contact, her face turned red. Suddenly Tu Mu ran out of the hall without saying a word. Ko Noyet saw this and shouted in shock, "Big brother Tu Mu." Ko Noyet escaped Tu Mu's arms and hurriedly chased Tu Mu, calling while running, "Big brother Tu Mu, wait for me, wait for me." Seeing that everyone had left, Lambak said to Elder O Duong and Nalan Tu Van, "If what needs to be done has been done, then Elder O Duong and junior sister, let's go too." Stepping out of the main gate of Duong Palace, Naplan Tu Van saw the broken-winged bird in the morning and immediately told Lambak, "Senior brother, look at the bird lying on the ground." The day's story ended, night fell, the moon rose high above the roof, the full moon radiated beautiful light in the night sky. Lambak used a light attack to jump onto the roof, thinking in his heart, consuming 3,000 villain values. The system also calculated that Tu Mu's next chance would be on the mountain behind Tu's house tonight. Moreover, tonight's fate also caused Tu Mu to rise. Lambak still continued to move with light air. Arriving at the Tu family's roof, Lambak stopped, stood with his hands behind his back, His face was more dangerous than ever with a strange smile on his face, thinking in his heart, this can't be done, you don't have this chance, Tiumiu. Okay. We should still hand it over to Lambak. Night fell and the moon rose high, illuminating the entire sky. Behind Tujia Mountain at this time, a lake illuminated by moonlight became shimmering and magical. Tiumiu has been underwater for a while. Tiumiu couldn't stand it anymore, rose out of the water, opened her mouth and gasped, causing water
bubbles to splash everywhere. Tiumiu rubbed the jade pendant, and called Old Fam out, and questioned loudly. Old man, you're not lying to me, are you? Is there a chance at the bottom of the immortal lake behind the Tu family mountain that you mentioned? It's all normal lava. The jade pendant always hanging on Tiumiu's shirt emitted a blue light. Immediately Fam Lao appeared with a thoughtful look on his face. He stroked his beard and said very firmly, why is that? My calculations have never made an error before. At the same time, deep in the forest, Lambak was holding in his hand
a small box that looked very sturdy. Display system. Host has successfully obtained Tiumiu's important opportunity. 2 Fuang Lin box. Tiumiu's luck minus 2,000. Host's luck plus 400. Villain value reward 20,000. He staring at the box in the palm of his hand. He chuckled, hee hee, what if you have a grandpa? I have a solid author system. I also don't know what expression he would have if Tiumiu discovered there was nothing at the bottom of the lake. The system continues to display the information of the 4 Directions Spirit Box. 4 Directions Spirit Box. The spiritual energy that falls from the immortal world to the 9 continents can be placed into the spirit box to extract all the essence of the spirit object. Then condensed into primordial stone. Temporarily still sealed, the host can now only withdraw the spirit object from under the Nguyen on Jai and practice making medicinal pills and objects of the Nguyen on realm. While Lambak was muttering and exclaiming, TSK, worthy of being a son of destiny, he could easily have a fairy. The silhouette of a woman appeared from behind. It's Ko Noyet asked Lambak. Lambak was doing something shady when suddenly his name was called and he was startled. Less than 5 seconds later, he skillfully hid the box and somersaulted in front of Ko Noyet, making her surprised by his action. Ko Noyet quickly regained her composure and asked Lambak, why did you appear behind Tu family's mountain? Lambak immediately replied as smoothly as flowing water, ready to flirt with Ko Noyet. The night was long, I didn't want to sleep. Today after meeting the old lady, that beautiful figure kept fluttering in my mind. My head can't go away. Lambak put his hand on his chest, looked at Ko Noyet with peachy eyes and said suddenly, I came here, finally met Ko Chu Noyet again. Of course, Ko Noyet did not believe what Lambak said, frowned and angrily shouted at him. Her mouth was cunning. I see you come to cause disadvantage to Chu brother. After finishing speaking, Ko Noyet immediately took a defensive stance, waved her hand back to gain momentum. Her face was serious and she said with a serious look at this palm. Lambak immediately dodged aside, causing Ko Noyet to stumble. Ko Noyet was about to rush to the ground when Lambak smiled. He reached out and grabbed Ko Noyet's hand, making her suddenly blush. Without hesitation, Lambak directly pulled Ko Noyet into his arms. Looking under the dim moonlight, the man and woman seemed to be hugging each other. Lambak didn't know where to get a rose, so he held it across his mouth and said flirtatious words to Ko Noyet. If you ask how deeply someone loves you, let the moonlight speak for you. Ko Noyet angrily exclaimed, you. On the surface, Lambak pretends to be in love but inside he is secretly laughing. Hee hee, it's not bad to read so many bloody novels. Using this combination, I can't believe I can't cut this girl. The system now displays a notification. Tease the daughter of Ko Noyet of Heaven's Fate. Reward of villain value 1000. Suddenly a cold, hoarse voice rang out, releasing the young lady. Lambak raised his head and looked bewildered at the person who had just spoken. In front of him was the guard Ko Noyet. Ko too was burning with anger. The blue aura on his body was constantly flaring as if he was extremely angry. He stared at him making him shiver. When Ko Noyet saw Ko Tu appear, she happily cried out as if she had just picked up a life-saving straw. Old Tu. Ko Tu replied Ko Noyet, the old man is late, please forgive me. Lambak slowly retreated in fear, his heart trembling. The pressure was too terrifying. Can't move at all. Besides Ko Noyet, there is still such a strong person hiding. Lambak panicked and screamed in his heart. His whole body was sweating profusely. I said I want to be a good person, right? The damn system keeps forcing me to be a villain. If you don't save me, my little family will probably end up here today. Display system. Check if the donor is in danger of his life and wants to spend 10,000 villain points to find a way to save himself. Lambak immediately nodded repeatedly. Yes. Hurry up. After Lambak finished saying this, the system immediately displayed an information panel about 9 Moon, Ko Noyet. Identity. Daughter of Destiny. Daughter of the Ancient Clan's Patriarch. Abilities. Ancient Clan Wind Seal Technique. Introduction. Golden Dragon King Yen. Introduction. Tao Thiat Water Seed. Has been in hiding for 3 years. Below is a self-rescue plan. The host can use the Tao Thiat Tui Seed on Ko Noyet's body to escape danger. Tao Thiat Tui Seed can secretly take over the host's spiritual power. Then replace it, inanimmately transforming the benefactor into a vase specifically belonging to the owner of Tao Thiat Chi Tui. Dan then intentionally implanted it in Ko Noyet 3 years ago. Suddenly, Ko Tu turned around and asked Ko Noyet, young lady, how to deal with this kid? Lambak was startled by these words and retreated in panic. Ko Noyet let out a breath and puffed. She coldly said to Ko-tu next to her, kill him. Absolutely cannot let him affect Brother Chu-mu. Ko-tu immediately received the order and replied clearly. Having said that, Ko-tu immediately took action. A very dark aura emitted from his body. He stretched out his hand. Immediately another firearm shot out and rushed towards Lam-bak, strangling him. Lam-bak could not resist being lifted up. He cried out in pain. The firearm used its strength to strangle Lam-bak's neck. He struggled with his strength. Both hands tried to remove the other hand but could not. He gritted his teeth and shouted loudly, but because he was being strangled, he could not speak. Wait. I still have something to say to Miss Ko-noyet. Ko-tu looked over and asked Ko-noyet for advice. Ko-noyet stood with her arms crossed, turned a blind eye, and coldly replied, there was nothing more to say. Ko-tu understood what he meant and immediately no longer held back. His eyes flashed cruelly, blazing with fire. His hand curled up to control the other hand to squeeze even tighter. Lam-bak saw that there was no way to negotiate, so he shouted in fear. It was critical to save his life. The water of Tao iron was implanted in his body. Immediately both Ko-tu and Ko-noyet were surprised by these words. Ko-tu stopped and released Lam-bak. When Lam-bak was released, he immediately sat down on his knees, repeatedly patting his chest and coughing. Before he could regain his composure, Ko-tu shouted loudly, Brat, you say it again, cough, cough, cough. After stabilizing himself, Lam-bak cleared his throat and said with a very serious expression, now its seeds are in the dantian of the young lady. You, Ko-noyet still stood to the side, her face cold and suspicious, asking again, in my dantian? Lam-bak immediately said very firmly, I don't believe you can let the old man see. The two people, Ko-tu and Ko-noyet, did not have an appointment but looked at each other, their eyes met, not saying a word, everyone had their own thoughts. Finally making the decision to let Ko-tu take a look, Ko-tu softly said to Ko-noyet, the eldest lady, that she had offended. Ko-noyet quietly meditated, closing her eyes to meditate. Ko-tu stood behind her with a serious expression, raising her hand to transmit her energy into Ko-noyet's body, letting it check. Inside Ko-noyet's body, purple light lines immediately lit up like a constellation, surrounded by Ko-tu's chemical energy that was constantly exploring. Suddenly, Ko-tu's eyebrows furrowed, his eyes widened. He withdrew the magic, angrily shouted, damn it! There really is Tao Thiet water seed. Who the hell is he? He dares to turn the eldest lady into a furnace. Lam-bak stood to one side, raised his hand to stroke his chin, smiled proudly, jokingly said, I know who it is. Night falls, the moonlight shines across the sky. Lam-bak was tied up, sitting next to Ko-tu and Ko-noyet on the roof of the Tu family, waiting for Ko-tu to perform magic. Lam-bak couldn't help but tell Ko-tu, old man, will your concealment technique really not be discovered? Next to Tu-mu, there is a former ghost. While Ko-tu was still concentrating on performing magic, he disdainfully replied to Lam-bak, you rotten boy, the old man is a miracle, just a strange primeval hero. How can he detect us? Ko-tu's magic opened an image that seemed to be connected to the Tu family. At this time, Tu-mu's image appeared inside. He was sitting opposite a white tiger, posing as if prepared to perform some magic. Ko-noyet looked closely and said to the two people next to her, stop making noise, Brother Tu-mu has taken action. At this time, Tu-mu read out loud a sentence, Tao Thiet Shi Tui. Immediately 2 streams of crimson aura appeared, surrounding his body. Tu-mu continued to shout loudly, show! At this moment, the red aura seemed to be unsealed, flaring strongly, and there were 2 bright eyes on both sides, like a fire monster. Tu-mu looked at the fire in front of him, smiled evilly, and excitedly said, success. He looked at the white tiger lying on the opposite side, gave orders, practice magic. Swallow me. The tiger obediently absorbed all the tremendous firepower that was thrown at him, so much so that it devoured him. He closed his eyes and disappeared with the sparks. At this moment the tiger disappeared in red smoke. Ko-noyet was surprised and covered her mouth with her hand. Her eyes were filled with unspeakable sadness. In despair, Brother Chu-mu was actually the owner of Tao Thiet Chi water. At the same time, the sky thundered loudly. A torrential rain poured down. The rain came suddenly and without warning, as if it came because of Ko-noyet's mood. Ko-noyet was miserable because she was trapped by the person she loved. She didn't care about the pouring rain and stood there blankly, her eyes lifeless. Lam-bak exclaimed, why does the plot always have to rain at this time? Lam-bak and Ko-tu had already avoided the rain. Lam-bak turned around and said to Ko-tu, old man, can you untie me now? Ko-tu was busy worrying about Ko-noyet, didn't care about him, just said one sentence, shut up. Lam-bak raised his head, raised his eyebrows to pretend not to pay attention to him, opened his mouth and said one sentence, hey, if you don't take it off, don't take it off. Lam-bak didn't have time to argue with him because he was already so happy that he was crazy. His smile was wide from ear to ear, his face was excited, he thought to himself, but he didn't expect that there would be another harvest tonight. The system board has displayed a notification. Ko-noyet and Chu-mu have a temporary emotional breakdown. Chu-mu's luck is -100, the donor's luck is +20, and the villain's reward is +1000. In the cold night, raindrops are still falling continuously on the eaves of Tu Palace. Nap Lan Van Tu's voice rang out, senior brother. She brought in a plate of freshly grilled meat, smiled and said, come quickly and try this grilled meat. The plate of meat that Nap Lan Van Tu brought in was the meat of a bird that had just passed in front of the Tu Palace's door. But when she got there, she didn't see anyone. Nap Lan Van too was a little unhappy and wondered, is there anyone? I don't know where the brother ran off to. But right now Lam Bak is in a room in the inner city. Lam Bak's hands were tied behind his back. It seemed he was a bit hungry. His face was depressed. He could only wait and think. Are these two people still not ready to let me go home today? Ko Noyet came out of the bathroom, revealing her large and wet bust. She slightly lowered her head to look down at her bust. Her face turned red as she looked. Perhaps it was beyond her imagination. Ko Noyet seemed uncomfortable and said to Lao, this is a bit wrong. She had just finished taking a wet shower and changed her clothes. When Lam Bak saw this, he couldn't help but think, TSK, I can't help but say that this girl is really very beautiful. It's really beneficial for that kid Chumyu. But, suddenly the system appeared before Lam Bak's eyes. It wrote, bravely rushing forward because of love. As long as the hoe is right, there is no wall that cannot be dug, inviting the host to attack Ko Noya within 3 months. Completing the mission, the villain value reward is 50,000. Lam Bak thought with disgust, the system is a bitch. Don't think that my little master is for this little villain value. But Lam Bak hasn't finished thinking yet. The system continued to display another line of text saying that failure would result in death. This made Lam Bak's face immediately change. Lam Bak shouted helplessly, huh? Lam Bak's heart was so shocked that he couldn't bear it and screamed wildly, right? Why was I suddenly killed in the blink of an eye? Damn system, can you explain it to me? After completing the notification, the system disappeared, not forgetting to include a message asking the host to quickly complete the task. Lam Bak is both annoyed and helpless. Is the daughter of destiny so easy to control? Are you like this any different from letting me die? Fuck. Don't you run. Now being forced by the system to accept the mission, Lam Bak suddenly thought of Chumyu. With his brother Chumyu's current strength, if he were to come into contact with the water of iron, I'm afraid it will be immediately swallowed by the iron water. On the contrary, the original soul next to him is very suspicious. Lam Bak carefully analyzed. At this time, Ko Noyet spoke up to help Chumyu. Whether it was the iron water strain or the original brother's doing, Chumyu brother did not know about it. Ko too, standing right next to her, also contributed. What the young lady said was not without reason. Lam Bak clenched his teeth together, thinking, hey, let's take a risk. Lam Bak was a bit angry. He stood up, broke all the ropes that were tying his body and shouted, confused. The truth is out in front of your eyes. Are you all blind? This also surprised Ko Noyet. He continued to say, tell me, you're so beautiful. Why are you so blind in love? With just one thought, doubts about Chumyu were erased. Are you stupid or that stupid? What's in your head? Ko Noyet seemed motionless, just silently listening to the scolding coming from Lam Bak. Having finished talking about Ko Noyet's part, Lam Bak also frankly pointed out Ko too, as well as you. With high cultivation and low intelligence, your lady has already been made a censor. You are not unreasonable. Surely you are not a spy sent by the enemy? Lam Bak waved his hand and said in a more intense and detailed way, what if Tao Thiet water is the soul of that original hero? Now Chumyu has mastered the water of the iron, and the water is in your body. You are Chumyu's urn. This is an unchangeable fact. Furthermore, while talking excitedly, Lam Bak suddenly asked, why does an original soul need a burner? Ko too stood there and could only sigh helplessly. Lam Bak saw Ko Noyet's face bowed down. She was quiet and didn't say anything. He thought, it's over. Was it too harsh? Surely you don't want to behead me? Lam Bak's expression also calmed down a bit. It seemed like he was about to speak up to back it up a bit, but his mouth slowly said, that actually me. Suddenly Ko Noyet raised her face and sobbed again. She said with her strong belief about Chumyu, my brother Chumyu and I grew up together. I know what he is like. I don't believe he is that kind of person. There. But right after finishing speaking, Ko Noyet hugged her stomach again in pain, gurgling. Ko Noyet suddenly coughed up blood. Ko too looked at her kindly, full of concern and asked, Miss? How are you doing? She fell down from the chair, unable to even sit still. Ko Noyet tried hard to say, after knowing the fate, I still use the family's strange fire to burn it. Ko too said with a worried face, it's dangerous. The young lady will continue to use strange fire to burn away the water that has aroused its reaction. I'm afraid if it continues like this. Lam Bak looked at the scene before his eyes and became suspicious. What was going on? Why did you suddenly react? But another thought flashed in Lam Bak's mind. If Ko Noyet is dead, wouldn't the mission that the damn system issued be null and void? Lam Bak's heart immediately felt happy. After all, I am a villain. It's okay to die without saving me. And she still wants to kill me. On this side, Ko too was still very worried and said, damn, there's no time to ask for help from the family anymore. Lam Bak frowned. It seemed like he was annoyed by the sound of Ko Noyet continuously screaming in pain. Lam Bak shouted angrily, hey, this is so annoying. System, open a store. List the things that can seal the water. The system's villain shop appeared. It was true that there were things that could seal the iron water, but they were all very expensive things. Lam Bak was infuriated by the system, his hands clenched into fists. Currently, Lam Bak's villain value balance was only 30,000, not at all equal to a corner of the pile of items in the store. Lam Bak asked the system, do you think I can buy these things? The system immediately introduced the secret method of dual cultivation. During the process of operating the secret method, both men and women would plant pure yang and pure yin seals into each other's bodies. The seal formed from the secret subtraction technique can combine the power of yin and yang, suppress foreign objects entering the body, and can also be used to refine spiritual energy and increase the rate of breaking through the realm. The system has thoroughly explained to Lambak the secret method of dual cultivation, but to do it, it is also necessary to buy yin and yang dual radiating principle with a value of 30,000 villain values. Lambak looked at it and said to the system, "At this price, you're trying to target my balance." The system calls out whether to buy or not. Even though he felt extremely resentful, Lambak still tried to hold it in. "Buy, I'll endure." Immediately, a purple power surrounded his body. At the same time, the system also announced that the transaction was successful and the negative value balance was 0. Tu Lao then thought of another solution. He suggested that we could only try using my true energy to force the water out. Today, even if I have to risk my old life, I cannot let this young lady get into trouble. But just as Tu Lao was about to take action, Lambak quickly stopped him. Suddenly being stopped, Ko Tu asked somewhat suspiciously, "Kid, what are you doing?" Lambak's face was full of confidence, calmly said, "Old man, if you don't want the young lady to get into trouble, then obediently go out to protect her. My young master has a way to save her." Ko Tu jumped up, his face full of anger, his tone serious, and he said, "Kid, I don't have time to joke with you now. If you don't want to die, then get out." Ko Noyet's body condition became worse and worse. She coughed and vomited blood, causing Ko Tu to scream in panic. "Miss," Lambak said solemnly, "Old man, in this room right now you can only trust me." Ko Tu's expression is still a bit skeptical. "You?" At this moment, he turned to look at Ko Noyet weakly sitting in a corner and said, "Young man, I will trust you once, if there is any danger." Ko Tu turned to look at Lambak with eyes filled with murderous intent. He warned that he will crush you into ash. After handing Ko Noyet back to Lambak and warning him, Ko Tu also immediately disappeared. Faced with Ko Tu's recent threat, Lambak was not afraid at all. Lambak said, "This old man's cruel words also follow the old motif, right?" After Ko Tu left, Lambak looked at Ko Noyet and scolded the system. "Damn system, why this time I wanted to save this girl, but you didn't stop me?" The system responded calmly, and the host's behavior belonged to the established category. Lambak is no longer curious anymore. "Okay, then let's do this." The next morning, the sky was clear blue with beautiful sunshine. Lambak and Ko Noyet were inside the room together performing double cultivation to help her seal the watertight iron inside Ko Noyet's body. Suddenly, Ko Noyet opened her eyes, she moved her lips and said, "It's so cold, am I dead?" Seeing that Ko Noyet had now opened her eyes and woke up, Lambak happily smiled and said, "You are finally awake. It seems that the watertight has been sealed." Ko Noyet's face turned red. She looked at Lambak's body in front of her eyes. "You." Then she herself looked at her own body in a foolish way. Ko Noyet seemed to have realized what was happening. Her red face became even redder. She quickly covered her body with both hands. From outside it seemed like Ko Noyet's curse could be heard echoing, "Prostitute. Die for me." Lambak was both confused and helpless to respond. "Oh shit. I saved you, but you still beat me." On Nap Lan Tu Van's side she leaned her head on the table, probably having fallen asleep all night here. Nap Lan Tu Van laughed alone to herself. Ha ha ha. It seemed like she didn't have any patience left to wait another minute. Suddenly Nap Lan Tu Van stood up. Her whole face darkened. A murderous aura appeared. Her eyes became sharp. She pulled out her sword and said to herself, "She didn't come back all night. There was no news. It seemed like someone was playing around and forgot about her. It's my monk." Lambak clenched his palm into a fist, trembling slightly. Lambak's face was swollen in all places because of being beaten. At this moment, Lambak not only felt unjust but also extremely angry. Ko Noyet was not here. He cursed silently. "Ko Noyet, you wait for me." Lambak not only cursed but also imagined himself sitting on a high chair after successfully attacking Ko Noyet. 3 months later, "Let's see how tame you are under my feet, Lambak." Bak probably thought that when Ko Noyet was respectful to him, please give Ko Noyet the job. Even though he was beaten to the point where his face was not normal, Lambak didn't care. He smiled triumphantly in the middle of the street, causing the boy who was being held by his mother's hand to point on the side of the road. "Mom, look quickly, it's an 8-precept pig." That boy's mother said in disgust, "Don't look at him, he's that idiot." Return to Chu Palace. Lambak smiled happily, opened the door with both hands and went into his room. Haha. Just like when going out. At this moment, suddenly there was a sound in the room. It seemed like no one had discovered that I had gone to Chu's house for a night out last night. Right behind Lambak was the unexpected appearance of Nalan Tuvan, making his hair stand on end and his face also became pale due to confusion. Tuvan whispered, "Can senior brother tell me how we played last night?" Next, a loud scream came from Lambak's room and echoed throughout Chu Palace. Inside a forest with lush green trees, the bright sunlight shines, making everything seem warm. Ko Noyet with cold eyes crossed her arms and asked, "So you sold us out?" Ko Tu stood right next to him and used his magic again. He spoke up and
said, "With one more person, the scope of the concealment magic must also be wider." Lambak, whose body was beaten and bruised by Tuvan, whose whole body was bandaged like a mummy, spoke up, "One more person is one more strength." Nap Lan Tuvan stood behind and covered her mouth with her hand, giggling, while Ko Noyet looked at Lambak speechless.
In an airy wooden house, a young man slowly entered. That man opened the door with both hands. His face was cheerful. He asked with concern, "Brother Chu, how is your injury?" Is it better yet? But he immediately changed his expression to surprise at what was happening before his eyes. Mew sat on the bed, smiling happily, both hands controlling the iron water to devour the corpse of some animal. The man panicked and asked, "What are you doing?" Mew smiled and replied, "I am refining the corpse of the dried demon wolf to heal the wound. We can't help but say that this dried demon wolf belongs to third brother Trong." He pulled out his sword, angrily told Mew, "Stop for me. You bastard, this is my mother's medicine money." He swung his sword and slashed hard. Mew waved his hand to block the sword and said, "It's just a demon wolf, don't you know how to hunt another one?" Trong Tam had no intention of stopping. He said angrily, "My mother needs to take medicine every day. This dried demon wolf needs to be exchanged to be able to support her illness until my injury is over. And the sister healed. Then we can go hunt another dried demon wolf." He was full of regret when he decided to save Mew. "But now you have destroyed everything, you heartless and meaningless person. I really regret saving you." Mew stepped back to avoid his attacks, bowed slightly and said, "I originally wanted to thank you, but now you want to kill me for a small matter. An evil smile appeared on Mew's lips. Cruelty rose in his heart. "Then I won't be polite anymore." Mew shouted in order. The water of iron poured down on him, devouring him. Tao Thiat Chi Tui quickly received the order. Immediately a strange fire gradually rushed out. That spark of fire was getting closer and closer to Trong Tam's side. He couldn't believe that he would save someone who was eating porridge. He could only curse, "Mew, you bastard." Outside the dining room, Trong Tam's mother and Mr. Tam's sister slowly passed by because there was too much noise inside. She asked, "What was so noisy?" The girls slowly guided her mother step by step. "Mother, slowly." When mother and daughter went into the house and opened the door, the scene before them shocked both of them. Because under the floor was Trong Tam's dead body. It seemed like both of them couldn't believe what happened before their eyes. They were so surprised that they had to cover their emotions with their hands. The younger sister called out, full of admiration, "Brother," while the mother looked with pity at the body of her son, Tamni, the mother's Tamni. At this time, the younger sister turned to look at Mew and blamed, "You killed brother, brother saved you, why you?" Mew didn't turn around, just nonchalantly replied, "I didn't kill him, it was because he found me." Both mother and daughter had tears in their eyes. The younger sister not only felt sorry for her older brother but was also full of anger towards Mew. She cursed, "Ungrateful and ungrateful man, I have to kill you." The mother was afraid that her daughter would lose her temper and bring trouble on herself, so she quickly intervened, "Don't get excited, brother, you won't fight him, and you're not even his opponent." At this time, Mew turned to look at them. He smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, old lady. Mew, I will clarify my grievances and will absolutely not kill innocent people." In the forest just now, Lambak's group silently observed all the evil things of the bastard Mew. Nalan Tuvan said angrily, "Damn, it's truly a bastard. The Trong family brother saved you when you were surrounded by a demon beast and almost lost your life. But you even swallowed the demon beast's body that someone was planning to exchange for. Get money to save your mother. As for killing people, this Mew is truly a beast. That's not right, it's a bit insulting for the word beast." Meanwhile, Lambak silently thought about Mew's words just now, when it comes to clarifying debt and resentment. Absolutely do not kill innocent people. After learning about these things, Ko Tu reminded Miss Ko Noyet that after returning to Tu Palace, she should try not to interact with him again to avoid getting hurt. Ko Noyet could only answer, "I know." Afraid that they planned to waste time continuing to watch Mew's whereabouts, Ko Noyet spoke up and said there was no need to watch anymore. Ko Tu also obeyed the order, "Yes, young lady." Lambak's face did not change, and he was not too surprised about the real person of this name Mew. But deep inside Lambak's heart was extremely happy. At that moment the system also displayed a notification. Ko Noyet was disappointed in Mew. Mew's luck was minus 3,000, the host's luck was plus 600, the villain reward was 30,000. Lambak smiled gloatingly, happily exclaiming, his disappointment was overwhelming. "My little master spent so much villainous value to save this girl, it seems not in vain." The boat floated in the quiet night sky. Lambak sat next to the window on the boat, rubbing his chin sadly and thinking, Mew at this time has not been able to pick up any luck, so after returning to the sect, I should run errands while staying there. Somewhere. Suddenly his eyes moved away. Lambak no longer looked out the window, but there was some confusion in his eyes. But then again, Lambak suddenly realized something unusual in the room, so he shouted in panic and pointed to Ko Noyet who was leisurely sitting on the bed. "Why are you here too?" Ko Noyet replied calmly, "And followed you back to the sect." Lambak quickly turned on his villain mode, his face revealing an irresistible chivalry. One hand resting his chin, the corner of his mouth pulled up into a smile and asked Ko Noyet, "Miss Ko, aren't you the one? Disciple of Tan Van Tong, moreover, you left Ujia like that. Aren't you afraid that your big brother Mew won't be able to find you?" Ko Noyet suddenly fell into deep contemplation. Her beautiful face suddenly dyed with sadness, containing feelings that could not be expressed. Lambak silently observed Ko Noyet's expression and guessed in his heart that it seemed that Ko Noyet still had deep feelings for Mew, but she followed along, which was also convenient for her to complete her mission. System strategy. Lambak approached Ko Noyet who was in a sad mood. Her face darkened and she spoke, "I know you are laughing at me, but..." The words were only half spoken and then swallowed back. Ko Noyet bit her lips to cover up her sadness, but the tears suddenly flowing down her beautiful face denounced her sadness. A hand gently reached out. Lam Bak's hand gently lifted Ko Noyet's chin and said, "It turns out Miss Ko is someone who likes to cry like this. I don't mean to criticize you, just remind you, come to my area, you are not afraid." Lam Bak deliberately did not finish his sentence, just hesitated to create a clear villainous look on his face. "Will I eat you?" This strategy made Lam Bak extremely satisfied when he received his villain value increased by 500. Faced with Lam Bak's constant teasing, Ko Noyet could only panic and say incoherent words, you dare. Seeing that this method was extremely effective in gaining more villainous value for himself, Lam Bak gained momentum and pressed Ko Noyet down on the bed, placing his hands right next to Ko Noyet. "Tell me if I dare." Immediately an announcement rang out, the villain value increased by 500. Ko Noyet suddenly became shy and embarrassed, not daring to look straight into Lam Bak's eyes. She was so embarrassed that she blushed and looked away, stammering out, "Even though, after all, you, who have already seen my body." The announcement once again rang out at 35% strategic progress. Although Lam Bak looks cold on the outside, inside he is a little surprised by his speed. Is this 35%? The sound of falling outside the door broke the ambiguous atmosphere. The fork fell at my feet. When Tu Van heard Ko Noyet's words, he couldn't help but be shocked. The sentence could not be complete. "Senior brother. Lam Bak was pressing on Ko Noyet's plump body. Hearing the voice and murderous aura behind him made Lam Bak unable to happily enjoy the joy and only silently groaned. It was over, followed by a feeling of coldness and sadness. Fear surged. Tu Van firmly grasped the sword and quickly pulled it out of the scabbard. On the boat, Tu Van's powerful and loud voice rang out. "What do you mean you had a clear look at her body?" Next was Lam Bak's shrill scream, which was quickly raised to the point of uttering a sentence. "Messi, junior sister, you listened to my excuses." No, listening to my explanation. The boat kept shaking violently due to Tu Van's anger. No matter how he explained, it seemed ineffective. Because Lam Bak's face was swollen, the wound was still red on his face. Suddenly there was a loud noise outside the boat.